Welcome. Delighted to see you all here today for a very important media conference that we have about a wonderful new program that's a joint partnership with the university and a nonprofit organization in the city, and the wonderful results that they have achieved over the last couple of years. So you're in for an exciting and interesting morning, and I think you will leave saying to yourself, we've really learned something that's valuable and important in how we can successfully work with young people. So I'm Michael Fair. I happen to be fortunate to be the chair of the Board of Governors of the University of Alberta recently, about 6 weeks ago, and I'm still alive. And delighted to be able to have the opportunity to chair today as the MC. Uh, so in getting moving and moving right along with our agenda today, I know that besides being exciting for me and for all of you, it is probably most exciting for one of the individuals who saw this as a dream. I remember when she met with me when I was still on city council to talk about what she hoped would happen, and I'm pleased to introduce and ask to come to say a few words, Gloria Meldrum, the head of Little Warriors. Gloria.
So welcome everybody. Today is a pretty amazing day for us. So excited to have everybody here. I just asked Jackie, Dr. Linder, I said, did you ever imagine after 8 years that we'd finally be here today announcing the clinical results? Eight years is a long time, but I guess for something like this, it really isn't. And kind of as Michael remembered, when I went around and talked to every single person that I could 8 years ago saying, hey, you know what? I've got this idea. I want to build a facility that's a long-term facility that helps kids that have been sexually abused. And no word of a lie, at that point, it was a dream, right? We've been doing luncheons and events and all these different things on a dream until about a year and a half ago that we opened the Be Brave Ranch, which, so you know, is a 60,000 square foot facility on 130 acres. People will come out and they're like, it's so big. It is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful facility. And it's amazing to be in this space today that we can announce the results of the clinical trials. And for those that are new, that kind of haven't been to one of our events before, the reason that I had this dream is because I'm a survivor as well. So my grandfather was a serial pedophile, and I lived with him from the time that I was 8 to 10 years old. And all my life, I just wanted to do something to help kids like me, because when I was little, I didn't have the resources. So my mom, did the right thing. She took me to mental health, social services, the police, but nobody believed me. So my grandfather continued to do what he was doing for a good chunk of his life, and I had no support. None. I lived in a little place called Miramichi, very small little place, and there were no resources for me. A lot's changed since then. There's a lot of great organizations that do great work. And really for me, I just wanted to start something where these kids could go and grow up and be healthy adults, right? Because that's what they deserve. No kid should ever go through, being sexually abused. It's such a horrific crime. And, seeing the kids that we do every day at the ranch, honestly, and their stories, no kid should ever have to go through that. And, now having a facility that is able now to help those kids, over the 1 year that they actually come with us. So programs kind of 8 to 12 years old, and the kids kind of come back and forth. So today really is a realization of a dream for me since I was a tiny little girl that really just wanted to honestly grow up and help these kids. Last night I got a letter from one of the mothers of the kids at the Be Brave Ranch. So new that the staff don't even know. And she described in the letter how when her daughter had came, that she was very, very scared. And I was on site when this child arrived, and she would not look at me. All the other kids were like, Glory, and they're hugging me, and they're so excited. And this little girl would not even make eye contact with me or any of the other staff. This little girl just graduated over the last couple of months from the program, and her mom said that now she's doing so much better, that she's not as anxious, isn't depressed as much, and isn't as angry, which was a big deal because I guess that she didn't really want anything to do with her parents. And so that's kind of the highlights of the letter, but just to be able to get that, and know that this little girl really did kind of turn things around and is on her way to a healthy adulthood. I mean, that's all we ever want, right, is for them to grow up into healthy adults and not experience just that horrific crime. So today's a day to celebrate. I'm not going to let you guys know all the information. That's going to be Dr. Silverstone and Jackie Linder, but I just want to say thank you. We've got a number of board members here and some wonderful organizations that do lots of great work in the community, and I honestly want to thank everybody, for supporting us, and for a number of you being there from the very, very beginning. My best friend of 20 years, where is she? She's somewhere. Right there, Alan. I will not, honestly, there's one night we were kind of, sitting around. I said, I think I want to do something. I want to start a ranch. And no word of a lie, that was the first time that I verbalized it. And she said very nicely, if you're going to do that, you better go back and recharge your grandfather, which I did, and led to his conviction. But, it really does come from a place of love, and there's just so many of you. I mean, I look at Guy, who's on my board. I told him about my dream around a campfire, right? So we just had such amazing people throughout the journey, and so many miracles. Honestly, someday I'm going to write a book on just the miracles that have happened throughout. So just, I just want to say thank you to everybody, and lots of love, and thanks for believing in us, and to all the staff that are here too. Thanks for the work that you guys do on a daily basis with these kids, and the other organizations that do great work on a daily basis too with these unbelievable children. So that's it.
Gloria, thank you very much. And now that Gloria has kind of set the tone for the day, I do want to thank and recognize a number of the partners that Gloria has mentioned that are here with us today. And I want to recognize Lori Szymanski, who is the Executive Director of Little Warriors. Where's Lori? Lori, raise your hand. Yes, thank you. Kind of thinking that. You will see and hear more from Dr. Jackie Linder, who's sitting up in front here, Dr. Peter Silverstone, who's been involved as the professor here with the research program that he will talk about as well. There are a number of members of the board, Guy, who is back over here, who I think is the chair of the board, or just a board, only a board member. Sorry, I'm trying. I have a position these days too. I kind of remember that. Thanks. And with Guy is Heather Hunt, who's also on the board, and Jason Pincock, who's sitting next to him as well. Thank you for being here as well. I have the pleasure of introducing also Angela Pitt, who's the MLA from Airdrie. Angela, thank you very much for attending today as well. We're delighted to have you here and see you. And a number of the other kind of partners that have also been referred to. From Zebra Child Protection Center, we have Casey Grady, Becky Wilson, Kimberly Clark, and Mary Jane James. I think I've got that right. Sexual Assault Center is Mary Jane. I'm sorry. Mary Jane James is the Executive Director of the Sexual Assault Center of Edmonton. I'm not sure whether Hala Case is here or not. Oh, yeah. Oh, there. Okay. Did I see your name correctly? Hala. Sorry. Thank you, Hala, for being here as well. And Hala is a psychologist with the Sexual Assault Center of Edmonton. Leanne Rook and Samantha Pearson, who are also with the Sexual Assault Center. I think. Oh, so University Sexual Assault Center. Oh, good. Part of our family here at the university. Thank you. Delighted that you're here as well with us. We also have from another person who is extremely important, particularly to Little Warriors, and that's with the Edmonton Community Foundation, Chris Roberts, who've been part of the funding of Little Warriors from very early on, I recall, I think. I remember that you were going to see them as well when you talked to me way back when. So, Chris, thanks for being here on behalf of the foundation. From the university, we have Dr. Dennis Kinimoto, who's the Vice Dean of Faculty Affairs for the Faculty of Medicine and Dentistry. And thank you for being here as well. Glenn Baker, who's the Associate Vice President of Research at the University of Alberta, way back there. Thank you as well. As was mentioned, as Gloria said, Little Warriors has been around for about 8 years. And I remember when Gloria came to see me when I was still a member of council, talking about what she was hoping to do. I remember not only feeling some of the passion that she had, but also wondering whether she could pull it off, kind of thing. That as a member of council, one hears from a lot of different people about different things that they're interested in doing and wish to do. And sometimes people succeed, and sometimes they run into roadblocks or are unable to make it happen. So it's a really wonderful day for me as well to see that the passion she had and the interest, in fact, has become a reality and has achieved as much as it has. It's also great for me as the chair of the board to be able to be here representing and talking about a partnership that's between the university and Little Warriors, and how that makes all of us a better city, a better university, and a better place for young people in the city of Edmonton. And that it's extremely important that we recognize how valuable those kind of partnerships are and what they can achieve when we have parties who put their brains and hearts together and work in issues that are really significant and ultimately make a difference to being a better place for all of us. I do want to then move along with the program. You'll hear a whole lot more about what happened and some of the results, and we'll start that by asking Dr. Jackie Linder to present. Jackie is the clinical director at the Be Brave Ranch. She has a PhD. She's a doctor of psychology, registered psychologist. Areas of therapeutic expertise include cognitive work, psychodynamic, attachment, exposure, transpersonal, and expressive arts, as well as eye movement desensitization. I'll learn about that one day too. And reprocessing and ritual healing. So welcome.
Good morning, everybody. I see several people I know in the audience, including board members, staff, and old friends and colleagues. Many people in here don't know that I used to work at the Sexual Assault Center of Edmonton for many years, which is where I first met Mary Jane James. First of all, I want to continue on this theme of community, because the results that we're announcing today are significant, actually not for Little Warriors. They're actually significant for the community of organizations that have been working for many, many years to protect children. That's actually what this is all about. First and foremost, I want to identify Zebra as one of the partners that came to the ranch, took a tour of our ranch, and because they're cops, gave us wonderful advice on security, which we then followed to the letter. That was very helpful. Also, CASA came out to the ranch and actually walked through and has been a partner with us in terms of being a primary referral source. We have a very strict screening protocol for the Be Brave Ranch, and that means that we are not able to accept at certain periods in time all applicants. And so CASA has actually been a primary referral source for us. They have wonderful programs that actually work with kids and populations and families that we're actually not able to treat in the format that we use. And we can actually talk about why that is after the fact. The good news is that diversity of treatment protocols is the new normal here in Edmonton. And that is definitely based on the partnership that we have with the U of A. So let me tell you how this all got going. I got a call. I was driving away on the back roads of Alberta, going up somewhere north to do a presentation on trauma to a bunch of teachers. And I got a call from this lady called Gloria Meldrum, who I actually didn't know. And she said, would love to meet you. A mutual colleague has said we need to talk. And I had at the time, I was in the middle of my PhD. I had just launched Canada's National Human Trafficking Hotline. I was up to my eyeballs in alligators. And I was like, no way. I just do not have time for one more thing. Gloria is actually known as the friendly stalker. Very friendly, but definitely stalkerish. Yes, I see people nodding their heads in the room. You know what I'm talking about. So she said, just give me a few minutes. If you come for coffee, I just want to have a conversation about a dream that I have. Fine. I was hooked. We met down on White Ave at some little cafe. I can't remember. 1912. She bought, which was good. And she even fed me, which was awesome. And she told me about this dream that she had of a treatment facility for children who had been sexually abused. And I love to start things. That's very much part of my personality. And so I was very interested. So we explored it a bit more. And then I finally said to her, this is going to be really, really hard to do. But if you want to try and pull it off, here's what you're going to have to do. And on a paper napkin that we actually hadn't used to clean our faces, it was a clean paper napkin, I drew out a rough sketch of a multimodal program, which is the one that Peter is currently studying. So we went away all excited. I ended up on the board. Peter said, hold your horses. We need to examine this with tremendous and appropriate levels of scientific rigor. Gloria and I were slightly deflated, but we agreed with his assessment that if we were going to do it at all, we were actually going to do it right. So Peter's actually going to roll out the results of what we have found. What I want to share is a couple of things. One is a story of a recent event, and one is a message. So recently, we had graduation of 6 of our kiddos. And just prior to that, we had another cohort come through because we have new kiddos come to the ranch every 5 weeks in terms of our intake process. And one of our children unexpectedly, her caregiver died while she was at the ranch in our care. And that was her only caregiver. So we had this moment of terror when we thought, she is in our care right now, who is picking her up tomorrow? Because the family member passed away just the day before she was supposed to return home. So lots of collaboration with EPS and social services, et cetera, et cetera. But that wasn't the really interesting part. The really interesting part was this little girl was a member of a cohort in which there was a child, a little boy, who had come to the ranch months before with what we describe as flat, empty eyes. That's really, really hard to see on an 8-year-old. We see it all the time. Those of you who work in this population see it all the time. What was fascinating about this moment was he had done so much work that when the staff actually told her friends, the rest of the cohort, what had happened, the children all decided to make a sympathy card for their cohort mate. This is one of the reasons why we think that cohort model is so powerful, because it's peer support, and peer support is a game changer in terms of trauma experience. And then the little boy who had so struggled in terms of his own ability to connect with other people, something happened within him. We still don't know what it was. I would call it a miracle. Something happened in him, and his empathy burst wide open. And he said to a staff member, "Where is she going to live?" He was so profoundly concerned about this little person. So, Christmas miracle, even though it's not Christmas. The placement gets sorted out, the child leaves our care, goes into the care of another family member. We are all quite concerned. Is she coming back? We don't really know the situation. What is happening? And then we hear from the mother of the little boy with the flat eyes that it turns out this little girl is a next door neighbor or living on the same street, right? In the new placement. And so they have accidentally found one another again in the community. And apparently they have become playmates as well as cohort mates. And they're keeping a very close eye on one another. And so we know that if she's ever in trouble and she's not able to tell us, he will tell us. And we will do whatever we need to make sure she's safe. So those are the little miracles that Gloria talks about. We see them a lot at the Be Brave Ranch. Not sure why, but a precious story to tell. The other thing that I want to tell you about or share with you is a little speech that was written by one of our most recent grads. This cohort decided to surprise the staff by writing speeches to share with all the audience on their graduation day. They dress up in ball gowns, and we go all out on grad. We do flower bouquets and gifts and ceremonies, and everybody dresses up, and it's one of the few times you'll see high heels at the ranch, because frankly it's a rural area and 4-inch heels are hard to carry off. But we do dress up for the children. So here's what she had to say. This is such a great place with such great people. I am so grateful for getting the amazing opportunity to come to a place like this. When I'm here, I feel so safe and so loved by all the Ranas and therapists. The Ranas are the childcare workers that live with the children. I remember when I first came here and thought everybody was really weird. Everybody was happy, excited, and full of energy. I remember at first not wanting to be here, and now I find that I don't want to leave. I have built so many new relationships. Last night, 3 of us, me and 2 others in my group, spent half an hour crying because 2 people we really cared about aren't here for our graduation. We just hugged each other and cried. Cried spelled C-R-Y-E-D. I felt so loved. I have made relationships, not just with the people in my group, but with the staff. It's like having a whole other family when I'm here. And every time I come back, although old staff have left, new ones are here to take their place. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those words and for letting us know some of those stories that make such a difference in most of our lives, hearing the stories of what has happened to people, individuals, and groups. So thank you again very much. So now we're going to shift just slightly. It's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, who will be Dr. Silverstone, who has led the research side of this particular project. And Dr. Silverstone will be talking about some of the results that have been seen, as that is part of the work that he and others here at the university have been doing with the organization, taking a look at pre and post, etc., that which he will fill us in on at this point. And I think from what I know and what he said to me, it has been quite remarkable. And Dr. Silverstone is, of course, a member of the faculty here as a professor and a researcher. He's published over 100 peer-reviewed articles. He continues to do a lot of research in a variety of areas. And I think I've said enough. Dr. Silverstone, please.
Thank you, and Michael, thank you for the kind words. For me, it's a real pleasure being here. And it's interesting. I'm going to talk about this study and the results, but I'd like to acknowledge Glenn Baker at the back, who actually was the guy who got me here from Oxford more than 20 years ago. So hopefully you're not too upset by that, Glenn. So this was a really unique collaboration. I'm going to tell you the story of how we arrived at the results we got, because it's quite an interesting one. But I also got to give enormous gratitude to the team. It's always the case, I stand up here, I take the credit, that's great. But these are the people who did huge amounts of work. Farrell, who was working with me for a while, Millie, Hanel, Jackie Linder we've heard about, Andrea Moritz, and Erin Martin. And so, kudos to the entire U of A team and support. So the first thing we did, as you heard from Jackie, is, we hear about this idea, we're researchers. We say that's great, but what's the situation really? So first of all, we did a study, and I have a PhD student, Erin, who researched how common is child sexual abuse. And it's frighteningly common. It really is, and you're probably all aware of the stats, but we did another analysis and we divided everything into 4 different groups depending upon the severity of the child sexual abuse. Not that I would minimize less severe, but the impact of abuse when it involves touching or when it involves penetration is profound and long-lasting. And those of you in the room who experience and interact with individuals know that. Although I see adult patients, every single day I see new patients, somebody has experienced this and it has had profound long-term implications. So it's huge, very common, and of course with the internet it's really quite scary. So we did that as a backline. And the second thing is, what's already happened? What treatments are available? And we did that research and then we published this research. And what did we find? There are a number of different therapies out there. Certainly the one with the most evidence is trauma-focused cognitive behavior therapy. I'm not going to talk about the details, but that is the kind of gold standard. But there are many other types of therapy which have some level of evidence. What do you use? How do you use it? When do you use it? And as academics, our problems were not what's out there, but what the limitations were. And the reality of this work is, despite the fact it is tremendously common, child sexual abuse is scaringly common. It's far too frequent. The actual research on this area is relatively thin. There is some work on trauma-focused CBT, but there isn't good evidence on how long should we treat patients for. Does it make a difference if you treat them for 3 hours or 30 hours or 300 hours? That kind of evidence isn't there. Is it better to be done in a residential basis, an inpatient basis, or an outpatient basis? That evidence wasn't there. There was almost no comparison between different treatment options. What's the best for an individual, and how do we do individual studies? And the age and sex variation between studies meant it's very hard to say this is what we should be doing for this particular group. We just don't have that evidence. If I'm in cardiology, I can say, if you are this age with this level of severity, we will do this, and there's good evidence. Nothing like that where we are. And lastly, how intense should treatments be? Should they be short-term? Should they be long-term? And so there were lots of questions. But the final one I'm going to point out is that we didn't know, to some extent still don't know, what a good outcome is. How do you know if you've been successful? And I'm all about outcomes. That's really my focus, is to make sure meaningful clinical outcomes occur. Do you want me to use a different microphone or not?
I think we're getting some interference from some of the other translators already. Give me 5 seconds, I can quickly change it.
Absolutely. Actually, I can use this microphone if you want. I'll just use this one. Is that okay? All right, so meaningful outcomes are absolutely key. So I'm just going to show you something which will come as no surprise to most of you here, which is PTSD. We hear a lot about PTSD in terms of adults, particularly those first responders, those in the army, and the severe impact PTSD can have on those individuals. It's also true of children. And we decided, because of the increasing evidence that PTSD symptoms really indicated long-term outcome, that this would be the focus. This would be the primary outcome we would try and change. And that's tough, but that's what we decided to do for a variety of reasons. And here's some of the evidence just supporting this and showing how critically important this is. So here's a quote from a recent paper. Exposure to early life trauma, including abuse, sexual and or physical, produce lasting changes in the central nervous system. And this is associated with cognitive deficits in adulthood. These brain changes that occur have long-term, profound implications that really can alter the life trajectory of children. So it's really critically important. More evidence again suggesting effective interventions in youth with these symptoms can help impaired learning of vulnerable youth. So the evidence was pretty clear that PTSD symptoms were where we should target because of the long-term implications they have. It's not that we don't need to target other things. We do. Depression, anxiety are important, but PTSD is the first thing. Now, I talked about the issue of the evidence previously, and Jackie and Gloria said, great, we're going to do this multimodal thing, and I said, whoa, you know, what's the evidence? And then it became a question of what should we do? One treatment, many treatments, how should we integrate? And we took a decision that we were going to do something that nobody else had done. We were going to take all of these studies which had shown some evidence and use them, because we didn't know what would work for each individual child. And so this one versus many is a really novel paradigm shift. It's not unique in medicine or in psychiatry, where we're starting to use more and more complex procedures. We find usually that one intervention isn't sufficient for everybody, but it is really something that we did. Another thing we did was say, well, can we do things differently than what's being done before? And I have no problem with what had been done before, but is there a need for something new and unique? And particularly, can we be more intensive? And we believed it might be time for a paradigm shift. And I don't want to underestimate what we're doing, because that is really what is happening. And based upon today and the results you'll see, I really believe we're there. Where we ended up with is a completely novel program in a purpose-built and designed facility. And by the way, you have no idea what it's like when people say, should we do this, should we do this? And they're spending literally millions of dollars of invested time and giveaway on an idea that you have. It puts a lot of pressure, and this is what we should do and how we should do it with these intensive interventions using multiple methods. So we use proven techniques in a unique combined manner. And then key to me was we have to have rigorous academic follow-up. So we came up, and I was rather nervous, and then what happened is just about the time we were planning to launch, we got some unexpected support. And when I talk about paradigm shift, you'll understand why in a moment. This is from the American Journal of Psychiatry, published in 2014 as we're starting. Cognitive therapy for PTSD delivered intensively over little more than a week, 1 week, was as effective as cognitive therapy delivered over 3 months. So it was, wow, maybe we are doing something right. And then this is an opinion piece from the American Journal of Psychiatry, which is probably the most widely respected and certainly the most widely read journal in psychiatry. The success of intensive cognitive therapy increases service options for patients with PTSD. So it did give us some confidence. We spent a great deal of time designing every aspect of the ranch, and I don't want to underestimate that. We published that data in advance to make everybody aware of what we were planning to do. And then we went to the findings. And so I'm going to share with you what it was like for me. So I had spent quite a lot of time. We were designing this program, leap of faith, huge amount of work put in, and then I stepped back. I said I would analyze the results, but really had nothing to do with the program for probably close to 2 years. I got the results, I put them into the kind of software we did, and I remember sitting down there, and those of you who do research will know what I mean, when you press enter on the software program, because you truly do not know what will happen. You truly don't. And so I remember this moment very vividly, felt a lot of responsibility. I pressed the results, and this was my feelings. You'll be glad to know I didn't do what Archimedes is reputed to do. Of course, I wasn't in the bath at the time, so that's good. So I'm going to just show you 3 slides very quickly showing you the results. The first still amazes me, and those of you in the audience will understand. Within 1 month, at baseline, 26 kids had PTSD. Within a month, that was down to 14. And you've heard some individual stories, but that, for those of you in the field, you know how striking a finding that is, and I don't want to underestimate that. When we do the analysis, this is the change in the PTSD scores. It has 3 bars above it. That's highly significant findings. This is after 1 month, showing the baseline change in PTSD scores, and we also got a significant change in depression and anxiety scores. Just going to briefly highlight why I'm so confident in the results. Most of us know that we're hearing a poll, and it's right 19 times out of 20. That's something we hear pretty much every day. But that's a statistical significance of p 0.05, less than 1 in 20 likelihood that this is a random or chance finding. Highly significant means the chance of it being a random finding is less than 1 in 1,000. So I have a pretty strong confidence that these are meaningful results, and what we're announcing today is the publication of this paper. Actually, just on my way in, I got, for those of you in the audience will know, a DOI number, which means it's the widely accepted publication number. So it's now available online, and you can look this up. And these are the results in great detail that are being released and announced today. So I can't tell you how proud and pleased I am. My final slide, in conclusion, I really believe that we are the start of a paradigm shift. That what we're finding is that maybe it's better, instead of our usual practice, and I do this in my clinical practice, seeing somebody for a week, time after time, maybe it's better to see them every day for a while. Maybe it's better to combine therapies. And maybe what we can transfer, I hope, is the learnings from the Be Brave Ranch to the much wider group who access programs through our many partners as an outpatient. But I really believe this is the start of a paradigm shift in treatment. I don't want to underestimate that. I do believe that intensive short-term multimodal treatments will be increasingly used. There are other areas we've done similar research in youth, and again, found tremendous benefits in prevention and so on, and that's being published. And of course, I'm an academic, so without doubt, more research is needed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Silverstone. Quite remarkable work. And we are a research university, so I'm delighted that you see more research we want to do as well, since that's part of the mandate of the university. But more significantly, or more important, I think, today, is that this offers something for everyone who's involved with young people, where sexual abuse may have occurred or has occurred, to give us some hope of some things that we can do and the way we work so that we can do it even better. And I think that's part of what this is all about, and it shows the value of partnership, partnership with those who are working day to day, and a partnership with people who are willing to be there and stand back and say, let's take a look at the results. Let's make sure that we know what we're doing and how we're doing it so that we can distribute that to everyone else so that they benefit from the work that's being done. And I can't emphasize in the society that we live at how significant that we are. That so often we hear about issues and think that there's no solution or that we can't find a way. Yet we do know, as we demonstrate today, when people put their heads together and when they work and they carefully and consistently and look at the results and analyze them, that yes, we can find answers. We can find solutions. We can make a difference. So I'm very proud to be able to be part of today, even though I did none of the work. But as a former member of City Council and now on the chair of the board here at the Board of Governors here at the university, how wonderful it is to hear this kind of thing that so many people have been involved that make it better for all of us. So I wish to thank everyone who was directly involved, those of you who have worked on a day-to-day basis, and that who know the challenges so well. Those of you who took the time to be rigorous and insist you need to look at it carefully. We need to be able to analyze. We need to know that we can measure those results and make a difference, and how important that is. And for everyone else that's in the room that know about the program or are happy to see the results of the program, whether you're the university, whether you're friends, whether you're the media, thank you so much for being here. There is further information that will be provided to all of you that Little Warriors is providing. And for those of you with the media, that Gloria and Dr. Silverstone will certainly be available for individual interviews if you so wish to meet with them. So thank you all for coming. Enjoy the rest of the day.